Hello. Hello, good evening. Good evening, everybody. Again, tonight with the conversation with my artist friend, and tonight I'm introducing you a new person. Actually, he's not an artist, but he knows a lot about art, and we are pleased to announce that we have with us tonight Mr. David Wilson, and I'm gonna introduce him. Is the one of the biggest collector in the world of with his collection of more than 300 paintings, unique paintings of super realism, realism and contemporary art. I'm very, very honored that he accepted my invitation, and I'm gonna invite him right now to jump in. Guys, probably I have to turn off the comment because otherwise I cannot really see Mr. David because of the comments. So I'm sorry if I have to do that. Oh, good
Hi,
evening,
Georgia.
Mr. David. It's such a pleasure to have you here, really. And thank you so much, because I know that you are ahead of me like 4 hours almost, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, so it is already late for you. And
not
I
at
will
all.
leave a little bit the comment just to say hi to all the people that are jumping in, and then I will turn off a little bit the comment, because otherwise I cannot really see you, and probably you cannot really see me. Is it correct?
It's correct. Yeah, the
So
comments are distracting.
thank you so much. Yeah, so Mr. David Wilson is very amazing person. Let me say, I met him like in 2020, because I joined a group called Ibex Insiders at that time. Now it's Ibex Insider powered by Ibex, and it's a pleasure to have met you in the group. I met so many good people, and really great, talented artists that I'm really grateful. And I'm talking with, I'm sure that what I'm gonna say, it's also a thought that from also my friends that they are thinking my same thing. I mean, we are really grateful for all the time you spent with us, and all the knowledge that you shared with us, with all your workshop and advice, and so many times you helped us a lot, really. And thank you from my side, because through you I learn a lot, really. I really learn a lot. So, but I don't want to really talk about really art tonight, really, because David Wilson, for me, the representation of the gentleness, humbleness, and I think great people, there are people like you. Like, I mean, I'm not here just to please you or say something like just to make you.
Good.
Is it? I think it's true, and all my friends, they know that I'm saying the right things. So I want to know, um, first of all, why did you start to? Why? I mean, what happened to your mind when you decided to help all the artists with your all your knowledge and all you are doing for artists? So, I mean, who is David Wilson as a person? Can I start to say? Can I start to ask you this?
Wow, something easy. Yeah. um, yeah. I don't think I have a good answer to that one yet. Um, but really, I mean, as you said, and it blows my mind, we're just about to go into 2022. But really, you know, we started the Insiders. So I got involved with IBEX. I'm not sure, dates are not my forte, 4 years ago, maybe a bit more. And so Kiki and Albrecht had already gone around and done a lot of the searching for the IBEX Masters, and so that project was already well underway. But when I got involved, got to know all of those artists, obviously, and met them. And then we traveled extensively, like 365 days a year, all over the world, meeting artists and everything. And then COVID came along, and it cancelled a lot of the exhibitions and the things that we'd been focusing on as a collection. And it was at the same time that I had been having a lot of conversations with Ibex Masters and some other artists that we work with more closely. And it just seemed to me that there's kind of a lot of technical opportunity out there for artists. There's a lot of workshops. There's a lot of, here's how you can sketch better. Here's how you can do oils better or whatever. But there were a couple of things in the area that we're focused on for super realism, kind of realistic art. There's a little bit of separation almost from the normal art world. So I know you've all experienced it, and I'm also glad that we kind of embrace all artists now in the group, but it's got a realistic kind of focus.
Yes.
And generally the art world kind of says to realist artists, if you go to university, even you struggle to find classes, professors kind of say, what's this crap you're doing? You need to be doing abstract or, anything except realist.
Yeah.
And if you didn't go to university, the market's saying that to you, and the art world is saying that constantly. We just had I won't say what country we were in, but just had a big meeting with the top gallery in that country, and they just almost very politely, but basically fell around laughing, kind of saying, what do you mean realist art? It's not art. My children can do that. Any real artist can do realistic art brilliantly. They're too intelligent to do that. They've got real art to do. And I was walking afterwards in the cafe, and it's just, as you all know, it's so wrong. It's to get to particularly the peak of realism, but even to get just extraordinary pieces, even if it's a really loose brushstroke, it's a talent, it's a skill you have to learn, and not everyone can do it, despite everyone claiming they can, and they can't do it well. But what I had really noticed was, there was this isolation, and then there's a whole bundle of other things. So we still do, an awful lot of messages from artists all over the world saying, please give me money, please, collect me, what can I do to join the collection, etc. And we try to respond to all of those, but there's not a lot of concrete kind of stuff that we can do. We collect what we collect, and if it's a 16-year-old or a 36 or a 76-year-old writing to us who's been painting for a year, and they're just not collectible for us.
Yeah.
But when COVID came about, we had the chance to finally sit down in the office for more than a few days. We were in Germany, we went into intense lockdown, and we started talking about, okay, what can we do with the wider community? Because we offer big support to artists who already have the skills and everything, but what about the people who don't? And so we kind of took the opportunity to form the Insiders, and then, as you know, I started basically just offering, I guess, some of what I had picked up from artists over that time, and I've taught various subjects and done a lot outside of art, and started bringing some of that in, more around the business of being an artist. But again, not just that commercial kind of thing, because again, there's groups where, you can pay some money every month or whatever and get some tips on, how to improve your Instagram or whatever it is. But that kind of deeper stuff that makes you, what is your brand and why are you doing what you're doing, and all the things around that, criticism, kind of talking, giving real criticism, you know, where you care about someone enough to actually really say what you're thinking, even if, you know, on the face of it that might be hurtful or whatever, or challenging. And so the group kind of just developed that way. And yeah,
we are quite a lot right now. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It's I keep forgetting, somewhere between 2,500 and 3,000 members now.
Yeah, almost, yes.
And it's, you know, it's still a warm, friendly kind of place. The occasional spat, but generally kind of people are getting on and, you know, polite to each other and everything.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's been a real pleasure for me and a learning experience for me. And, you know, I mean, we first met through a one-on-one. In fact, I think one of the very early
I was
one-on-ones.
I was probably the third or the second doing
I think
one-on-one with my queen, with Mask.
Exactly.
That you were so laughing a lot.
I
was
do,
so
and I saw the Queen's speech, saw her Christmas speech, and I was thinking she needed the mask.
Exactly. Yeah, but that's why. I mean, since then, the time is really is running so fast. Now we are almost in 2022, and now it's a bit that we are knowing all the people, all the team, Ibex, and all your colleagues and the other collectors, and so I can say that really, I think it is a very nice community because of you, because of the way that you make it, because it reflects in a way the one that he owns all the group, like you, like people like you. So don't skip my question. I was asking who is David Wilson, because you are in love with art. I mean, and also I want to ask you something. Through all this period of knowing so many masters and very good painters, doing super realism, and did it ever happen to you that suddenly you like it even to collect even other kind of art, or just super realism? Because I mean, when you start to swim in this field, and then your eyes, they get, I believe, for me, I mean, I love any kind of art. There are some that they are completely different from super realism, and I really love it, because so what about you? Do you ever have this feeling to like even
very much. And I think we've spoken about this before in some of the workshops.
Yes.
Once you like have a collection, you know, for a collection like ours, we can't suddenly start adding some abstract pieces and, you know, adding bits and pieces of stuff. It's like, once you're a collection, that's what you're doing. But we were at, the three of us were at Art Basel in Miami the year before COVID. And we were invited to view someone's private collection. And we were talking afterwards that, you know, actually abstract would probably be, like, once we felt we had completed this collection, it could be fun to go and do abstract, for example. And so we're actually all, when we're in the mood for it, so when we're not talking about superrealism, very kind of open to other pieces.
I agree.
And so, you know, when we go around the art fairs and everything, it's kind of interesting. We've been to so many, and we've seen just, you know, so many, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. You know, we've reviewed thousands of realistic artists, and we've been to so many art fairs all over the world that it takes us, honestly, it's embarrassing. It takes us like usually less than 5 seconds to look at a stand at an art fair and decide if there's any single piece there that we might give another 30 seconds to or something. And then it's kind of extraordinary if we stop and spend a few minutes with a piece.
That's nice.
But what's kind of extraordinary is once you've done so many, like I don't know how many paintings we've seen, tens of thousands, I guess. You kind of have a sense not just for the super realist, but now we have a real sense for kind of everything because we see it all. And so, often we'll see, it's kind of embarrassing. We were at an art fair a few weeks ago, a big one, and the two pieces that actually stopped us at the art fair, apart from one of the IBEX masters who was there, were both abstract. Because good realistic art is actually really hard to find. And so the two pieces that actually interested us were abstract, that we stopped and kind of spoke to the artist about. So yeah, we're pretty open-minded, but as collectors, we're not open-minded.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah. But I mean, I think it is normal that art, it's a kind of it's beauty. It's something that when you see it, it's something that is stronger than you. So if a piece, it's a very beautiful piece, then it doesn't matter. I mean, it could be super realism or contemporary portrait or whatever. I mean, if it's beautiful, then it's beautiful.
It could be anything, or even beyond beauty. Artworks that I really respond to quite heavily are conceptual kind of pieces, particularly around technology. And so, we've seen a few of those at various exhibitions, or actually gone to see their exhibitions. And I love that kind of stuff because it connects, with my lifetime in tech. And if the concept's great, then it's really entrancing. So, I remember one piece a few years ago, and it sounds terrible when you're talking about it. It's so boring, but it was just a bunch of sensors, kind of silver, like radar kind of systems that followed you and tracked you when you walked through the field of them. And it was just this uncanny thing, how kind of a dish was tracking you, and suddenly it felt human. It felt alive. It was like there was a consciousness there, even though each obviously was just, was just a sensor and some motors. But suddenly you started ascribing all of this kind of emotion and kind of human content to it. I've just seen Sahani there. Hi, Sahani. Ask where we are. We're in Azerbaijan at the moment, in the city of Baku.
Yeah, how it is. It is. How it is the weather? How is the weather?
Freezing
right
cold. Really cold. Yeah.
Yeah. So you were like in Dubai before, then you needed a little bit of cold, of course. Cold weather, right?
Via Korea. But yeah, the world is very circumcised for us at the moment because, with COVID, it's really difficult to travel.
Absolutely. So then just jumping again, so I'm really curious to know.
Of course you can. We were going to actually try to go to Georgia and Armenia and Albania and stuff as part of this trip, but everyone's closing their borders. So,
yeah. Are you gonna stay there for a while, or just for holiday vacation right now for Christmas time?
We're actually not sure. We're just traveling at the moment where we can actually get in. So we were moving on, but now the borders are closed with Omicron. So we were just discussing today, maybe for obvious reasons, the Ukraine is still open. And so we might head to Ukraine. But yeah.
Nice. Wow. Beautiful. I think you will enjoy more because you're not really from the warm weather, as you said, no? You enjoy more the winter.
Every day. Yeah.
So, but David, okay, let's forget the insiders and the art and So we were talking before about our conversation when we had a one-on-one critique, and it was so helpful, this conversation with you, because at that time I couldn't really see what I was doing, what where were my mistakes, and of course I knew that my technique was not really good at all at the moment. I knew, but in my eyes it was something like me at that time. It was a part of
Mhm.
me like that. It was even a part of my journey. So I don't neglect this moment in time when I'm not that saying now I'm good. Not at all. I'm still growing. But of course, I can see that I'm moving, even though I'm not painting right now. So going back at that moment, when we met, it was really difficult for me to stop a conversation with you, because I felt this empathy. I think you are able to make the people so comfortable, and this is something that not all the people that they can do. And I believe that even in in the world of art, there are many that probably maybe because of insecurity, or they feel maybe because they put some kind of barrier, or they pretend to be, or they don't want to listen critique because but this is, I think it's a kind of insecurity. But with you, you have the way to go through all these limits, and to let the people understand really well where it comes from, this part of you, so so great to help people. And where did you achieve this attitude, or that can help the artist so well?
Well, thank you.
It's
I'm
true.
I'm not sure that I do, but yeah, I guess if we're not talking about art, we're yeah, kind of talking about empathy, and I think we're just talking about listening to people, um, and it's interesting. I don't know when it happened for me that I switched to fundamentally believing that that people are good, and so there's kind of this sense in the world, or some debate as to whether people are fundamentally bad or fundamentally good. And if you'd asked me when I was growing up, and maybe even my first, interestingly, for the first 5 or 6 years when I was working in the finance world, I would have said fundamentally people were bad. Um, to be honest, thinking about it. And then I moved into consulting. Yeah, I might even say that now again if I went back. But then I moved into consulting and started traveling a lot and meeting a lot of people. Um, and it switched over to a fundamental, I think travel does it to you as well. Um, you just
I agree.
see, yeah, you see so many countries and cultures, and if you're fortunate, you kind of get to interact with people from all of those regions. And you sit in someone's home, and if they've got young children or something, you play with those young children. It doesn't even matter if you've got a shared language or not, and normally I don't.
Yeah.
Um, you know, it's exactly the same. It's peekaboo, the hide your face, and all the silly stuff you do with kids. Doesn't matter whether you're in Africa or Europe or India or wherever you are. It's exactly the same. And one of the things that I always loved kind of teaching, and I've kind of run workshops and taught at university in various places, and to a huge variety of students from, I'm not sure, probably close to 100 different countries. And whenever I get them to talk about, what do they like about their home and everything, invariably, everyone gets up and they say, what's unique about my country and my culture is that family really matters to us, and having meals together is really important. And then they sit back down and they kind of go, oh, you know, now everyone knows that in Japan, our families really matter and food is really important. And the next kid stands up and they kind of go, in, you know, whatever country, pick a country, the most important thing to us is family and food, and you know, we enjoy eating together. And then they sit down and they go, now everyone understands how special our country is. And this just goes on and on and on. And you know, it's a universal. And
Absolutely.
somewhere in all the travel and the work, it kind of twigged to me that, you know, whatever skin color or culture or whatever, people are people. And in general, I think people, you know, obviously it's a human need. They want to be heard, and they want a real conversation, you know, not just how is the weather, but, you know, to feel a connection. And people are often scared to do that, I think.
Yeah.
They're kind of scared to really talk to someone who they don't know because they think they'll get rejected and stuff. And that may happen, but again, in just the experience of talking to people, it happens really rarely. Most people are incredibly happy if you're genuinely listening to them.
Exactly.
To kind of open and have a real conversation. And you know, that's great for me because I get to meet someone really interesting, you know, find out about them, and so I walk away kind of really happy. And you know, you can ask Albert and Kiki when I'm in the office and finish a one-on-one, I'm usually really happy as well.
Yeah.
And hopefully the other person has. Yeah, so it's kind of selfish as well to approach the world like that.
It's a kind of sharing, like, yeah, it's a sharing, because also the one that, of course, each of them or each of us, for sure, probably they gave you a kind of something in return. I mean, it's when you get to know the people,
different perspective. Yeah.
But that's why I think, I mean, this is a part also that it's really important for a person, even for an artist, to be a little bit humble. I mean, and I can see all your masters are really humble people. They're very, very. I mean,
you might think that.
It is not. Yeah, no. Probably, of course, maybe there are some that they have a little bit more attitude, maybe more insecurity or something. I don't know. But anyhow, it looks like they are very simple. I don't, of course, then when probably success can make the people a little bit different. Could be maybe success that can be a part that they play in the wrong way for some.
That's true. And I think as well, we've noticed with the success sometimes comes fear. Fear of losing that, or as they call it, imposter syndrome. So you know, you get somewhere actually usually on your merits, but then you're sitting in that position and you kind of think, wow, I don't deserve this, and if anyone ever finds out, you know, that I don't know whatever, or I can't do, or I'm not as good as people think, or whatever, and so people get really fearful. And so certainly, just to speak generally about the whole group,
of course,
with the IBEX Masters, I think there's a certain element of that, because nobody ever really expected it to take on the life that it kind of did, and to mean what it did. And so, you know, the pressure for them is quite high. And then there's the fear of, well, but what about my next painting? And, you know, now this bar has been set. How do I keep exceeding that bar? And that's just not going to happen.
But obviously, because when you choose a master's, I'm sure Then you choose them when they were not really, I'm sorry, interruption, when they were not IBEX masters, of course. Then you went to get to know them, and then when you made the project together, when you did it, when they decide to jump in the IBEX, of course, probably some pressure, some pressure uh, came into, and because of the expectation of, and then of course, even though I'm sure you are very nice, but for them, of course, it's a kind of pressure that they have to feel. That's why
It,
I was thinking,
it is, yeah.
it
Sorry, Joe.
no, I was saying, did it ever happen that maybe one of the masters, or without mentioning who, I was always almost giving up to the project because of fear, or because of
Yeah,
it happened, right?
we had four IBEX masters who couldn't complete their paintings, and at least two of those were just the pressure was too much,
Yeah.
and we had many of them go through periods of anxiety and depression, and they just couldn't face their painting another day. And to be honest, we severely misjudged that. And so if we did the project again, we would probably offer psychological kind of counseling
Yeah. Wow.
as part of
Interesting.
it.
Yeah.
Because we just never, sometimes you don't see yourselves through other people's eyes. And so, we, for a long time, for like the first 18 months or 2 years they were painting, we never commented at all on the paintings,
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
because we just wanted it to be the artist's paintings, and whatever they were doing and stuff. But they knew there were other artists all over the world painting. Over time, they found out who they were. They didn't know anything about what they were painting. So they were kind of painting in this void against 24 other people that they weren't aware of, or 23 other people
Wow.
that they had no idea what the level was and what the standard. And so, you can imagine competing for a job or something, and them saying, okay, it depends on how high you jump, but we're not going to tell you whether there are Olympic high jumpers here, or
Wow.
everyone's just really good, so jump the highest you can, kind of thing. How
Exactly.
much
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
training do you put in? How much effort do you put into that? And so we just didn't realize it. We thought we were doing something really nice and saying, look,
Yeah.
here's as much money as you want, and everything. Go and do that. But the pressure was extreme,
Wow.
really extreme.
This is very good to this is very very interesting. Even it's good. I think it is really interesting even for the people to know that, because sometimes you always say maybe, it's a dream, I wish that they can choose me, because and then they have to know that they can go through this kind of imbalance, because you get imbalanced. You are not really focused
That's right.
anymore to be into yourself, and to just give to you what is me, my unique part, that the one that you choose to be your master.
Yes.
Interesting.
And there's that whole difficulty that, for many of you, I know, maybe for all artists kind of across their life, you're struggling to find kind of who you are, exactly as you asked me before, who am I? I'll tell you on my deathbed, kind of thing. Like, it changes, and it's difficult to describe that. And so, as an artist, you're kind of documenting that as you go through your entire life. And we then step into that process and say, okay, you've done all of this work to date. Now we want your masterpiece. We want like your defining painting for this moment in time. No pressure though. Just go away, do that, we'll pay you, etc. No pressure. And we didn't really understand what we were asking for, because of course it came with pressure. And no pressure. We'll be exhibiting this in New York and London and all over the world, and we'll spend all this money advertising you and putting you out there and everything. So, but don't worry about it. Just do your masterpiece. Oh, and by the way, there's 23 other people that we consider to be the best artists in the world in this genre, based on brushstroke, and they're all doing the same thing. But don't worry about it. I'm sure you'll be fine.
Wow, imagine.
So it's like that adage of be careful what you wish for.
Exactly.
And I often think that when people write to us and kind of say, hey, can I, and we literally have people write to us and say, I want to be your next IBEX master. And kind of we look at some write with humility and kind of say, what would it take for me to move there? Others write and demand it now.
Wow.
And so some of the messages we get.
I have to know what happened after. Is it good that they know what is going to happen? What is going to happen to them?
It's kind of interesting when an artist, and it's like, no offense, but write to us again when you're in the top 100. For the demanding people, we try to be a bit more sensitive for the others. But yeah, be careful what you wish for, because wow, it's a big thing.
Of course, absolutely. So the other side of the medal, no, it's the other side. So because you can manifest whatever you want, but then the reality, because in the end, art, it's beautiful when you're free, of course, then you can express yourself, your idea, your thoughts, and this is what you're asking to do. But then when someone, it's the same, almost it's the same when you have, of course, it happened to me, something almost like this, when they ask you to a small portrait commission work. It's not the same when you do completely free work. It's something else. It's different, because it's nothing that you choose. It's something that, and then you feel that maybe you start to think they will not like it, and when they see it, maybe you are not even sure they really like it when it's done.
And again, we thought that we were helping by, like, we wanted complete artistic freedom. Exactly. So, everyone talks about the Medicis and all of that kind of Renaissance period, but they were over their shoulder all the time, kind of saying, remember, put my cousin in as, this figure or whatever. And they were over them all the time, dictating what they were doing. And so we kind of thought, no, complete artistic, at first they didn't even send us reference photos. And then for a long time we would kind of go and stand in the studio and look at their work and everything. And then they'd be like, what do you think? And we'd be like, no comment, it's your painting. And walk out again. And in hindsight, that was kind of cruel.
Really?
We thought that was a great thing to do, to give the artist the freedom that they had asked for.
Of course.
But actually, it was very difficult.
Very interesting. This part, it's amazing. I love to know these kind of backstage things from IBEX. Now, how many masters do you have on the IBEX collection? There are more than 300 paintings, right? Unique pieces on the museum. Let's call it museum of IBEX.
In the art lab.
It's an
well over, and that's actually, I'm not sure, like 150 maybe artists. So some we have more paintings from, some only one. So it's a fair representation of, as we've said many times, what we were after was a tight brushstroke.
Yeah,
So, it was a very defined kind of thing
yeah.
that we were looking for. And that's shifted a little bit over time, where we still want a tight brushstroke, but we're also looking more at the meaning of the painting and stuff.
Oh, that's great. Beautiful. Yeah. Yeah, you're right. I agree, 100%. That's amazing to know all these stories. And of course, I'm not going to ask you more about something, but do you have any other kind of a secret to let us know, to let us something that happened, or maybe something that happened that is quite interesting to know?
Mm. That we haven't spoken about before. In fact, I'm surprised I haven't spoken about the difficulty of it for artists. I don't think really there is, because it starts verging into the personal. There's so few of them. It starts becoming easy for you to identify which artist I'm talking about.
Yeah.
If kind of I talk too much about other things that happened. In some senses, I kind of wish that I could, because I think it's good for every other artist out there to know that all of the Ibex masters, except for Dino, are human, and no, Dino's deeply
I think
he's
he's a
deeply
real
human.
master. I mean, to be an Ibex Masters, it's to complete the cycle. I mean, it's like to be real, a master, because in this way, it's meaning to be a real, complete master. I mean,
It
all
is.
the. I mean, it's a wall of. I mean, it's a kind of complete a person complete. I mean, because you need to be, of course, a bit strong personality, a huge passion for what you do, completely being to yourself, in balance with yourself, and just to make sure that you are unique, and then you express
Mm,
completely yourself
mm,
freely. It's meaning that you are a real master as a person,
yeah.
not only as as a
Uh,
painter.
exactly. It's very much about the personal. There's just a question there from Christoph for the
Yeah.
Dino Masterpiece, which is such a good question. Um,
Sorry, I didn't see.
so many times we've been very close to releasing it, and then his painting, for us anyway, is so extraordinary that we actually wanted to do its own exhibition. So just the painting and the references and the sketchbooks and everything around it that he's prepared. And so a number of times we've planned individual exhibitions for him in San Francisco, in New York, and in London, and COVID just keeps on keeping on. Um, so yeah, I, I don't know what our current kind of plan on it is. We've thought about, yeah, it is such a teaser. Yeah, we've thought about websites. We've spoken to people about doing kind of 3D kind of crawl through the painting, tell the story and everything, but nothing matches being in the room with it. And then the other thing is Dino has finished writing his book on the painting. And so that's working through kind of the publisher and everything now. So yeah, there's a few things, and I don't even want to give a deadline, because honestly, with Omicron and stuff, I don't know what next year is looking like. Mm.
Oh, hi, Nelson. Nelson. Yeah, we have a lot of our friends, insiders, Christoph, and some, I mean, there are
Mm.
quite a lot that they are following. This is because of you, David. David.
I think it's may a joint. Yeah.
So probably in few years we will see a new Ibex collection with abstract. Maybe it's a kind of plan, or no?
Well, I did say once we felt we had finished kind of what we can do in this area. So I think there's a good few more years in that. And you know, whether we feel like taking on another collection and everything would be a real question. I'm not sure that we would. It's oh, maybe, but it takes a lot of energy. Certainly, the way that we do it.
For
You
sure.
know,
Yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah.
not a few paintings for your walls or anything. There's, you know, we're all pretty intense kind of people. So, you know, there's one way of doing it, and it's not a casual way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm here for Georgia. Thank you. Is our
I knew
gang
Robbie would be.
is joining. But listen, David. But there is. Can I ask you if there is? Don't say maybe if you don't want the name, but there is a new artist that you are in love with now, because it's love. We are talking about to be in love with, because when you love the work of an artist, it's meaning that you are in love with the artist. Of course, no, not in the normal way, but I mean, usually it's love.
Mm.
It's like to be in love
Mm.
with.
Um, I kind of hesitate to mention it, and I won't talk about any
No,
contemporary
then
kind of people I've seen and stuff. But actually, the one that I'm really getting into at the moment is Goya, and
wow.
particularly his 14 kind of dark paintings, and how they were a reflection of kind of, you know, the whatever was going on with him. You know, the illness, certainly the mental kind of illness and everything. And so I'm finding that personally interesting to kind of explore and follow through at the moment.
Oh, nice.
So yeah,
Interesting.
it's kind of interesting. Before kind of moving into IBEX and everything, art for me, I always used to say that I liked art to make me uncomfortable,
Ah,
to
yes.
kind of scratch
Wow.
parts of my brain that aren't otherwise triggered. So whatever that discomfort was, I kind of like new experiences, and it's part of the reason I travel so much and have done quite a lot of things in my life. You know, when you on a small thing, for example, whenever you get those lists of food, you know, if you tried this, I win those. Like hands down, I win every single time.
Wow.
And because there's nothing I won't try. And so art for me, before we became really focused, was very much similar, that whatever the discomfort was, I enjoyed feeling that. And to be honest, you don't get that much in realist art. And so it's kind of something that I've been missing, because, and I kind of wished that we did.
Yeah, but
It's
maybe
part
someone
part
can
of
do something like this.
ideas. Yeah, I mean, to a certain extent, Dino does, and I think that's why, you know, Dino and Alexander Timofeyev,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
it's why they're, you know, such two of my strongly favourite kind of artists, because, you know, Alexander, for example, one of the pieces that he did for us, when we were in St. Petersburg and we saw that, Albrecht and I were standing next to each other, and we turned to each other and said it was like being punched in the stomach. It was just, you know, we're both fathers, and it was dealing with young children and stuff, and just this fear and stuff, and that's great art. Like,
Wow.
whatever you may think of it, for me, that's great because it just triggers these emotions and stuff. And so, whatever it was, that's what I enjoyed. And so, for example, I can't remember which art fair it was, but being at an art fair, and maybe one of you even knows who the artist is, I've long forgotten, but I turned around from talking to someone, and there was this huge wall of strap-on dildos that was up there, just a whole wall. And I kind of turned around, and there I was face to face with it. And it was like, wow, this is kind of a very uncomfortable moment. And so I love that piece because it's like, well, why is that uncomfortable for me? What's happening? And so, it was a great piece of art because it triggered something in my brain that kind of went, oh, this is an unusual kind of thing. And I like that. I really like that.
So you like when really art gives you this kind of uncomfort, really so deep, and what you can stand when you see a painting? What is really the things that you can't stand? I mean, if there is.
Honestly, that I can't stand are artists who can't control their technique. Unless they're learning, obviously. There's always a learning process. But yeah.
It's true.
But artists who can't do what they set out to do, so whether it's abstract or whatever it is, but the technique has got away, and so that's really jarring. And then the other thing that I can't stand is art that is devoid of all meaning. For me personally, I just don't like it. I want something there.
Probably this is just to, I believe we cannot even call it really art. I mean, art is kind of to express at least an emotion
I think it does. I think it needs to have something to say. And that's, as we've discussed before, decorative art and all the rest of it is fine. And I would never disparage someone kind of earning a living from it or whatever, because I know everyone's got to do what they've got to do. But if we're talking about, art that I can choose, then yeah. And Les has just put in, an interesting question about, is it because it takes so much technique?
I can't follow because there are so many.
So Les was just saying, yeah. And I think part of it is that, and part of it's kind of historical as well, because there was that movement through photorealism and all the rest of it, and a focus on kind of painting like a photo for a while and then moving a little bit beyond that, but a lot of industrial and not a lot of thought, almost as a reaction to kind of the conceptual and abstract that was happening. And I also think, to be honest, I don't know, we've all discussed it a lot. The technique is obviously more challenging. It takes a lot of kind of effort to get there. But to be honest, we also think there's an element of, Robbie's actually just said that, the routine, just
takes time away.
You have to work hard. Yeah, and you have to be more focused. and you're painting, whatever, from 1 to 4 square centimeters a day, and so intent on that often there's a failure to step back and kind of look at the forest, and there's just this real intense focus, not on the trees, but kind of on the leaves and on the twigs and, the veins in the leaves. And it's not really enough. There's not enough time spent asking, why am I painting this, rather than the technique. And part of it maybe is it's just habit, because it takes so many paintings to get to that level of technique. Yeah. And you can't necessarily have full meaning all the time. When you look at someone with a much looser brushstroke, a lot of their student work is crap as well. It's not like, they're any better at doing that. But for realist artists, maybe it forms a habit of not thinking about why they're doing what they're doing. And so it does seem to be a little bit stronger.
Yeah, they're asking, but the thoughts precede the technique, or it should in the composition of the piece.
Totally, 100% agree that it should.
Absolutely.
And I'm often shocked at why an artist would embark on, 100, 400, 1,000 hours of, working on a piece, but give it 6 hours of thought before, they actually start doing it. It often is a subject of conversation amongst all the IBEX people. Of why the hell did someone just spend 400 hours doing this? And, maybe they should have thought for more than 2 hours before starting it. And so, yeah, habit, I guess. And also in the realist art world, there seems to be a real acceptance that it can be empty of meaning, and still have value just on the time that's been put in. But then you're paid whatever someone thinks you're worth per hour. And, that's wrong, as we've discussed
That's
before.
the beauty of IBEX, because there are others painters, they do super realism or hyperrealism, that they are very picky in the details and everything. But then when you look at their paintings, you can see anything. They do a lot of workshop. I can see many, but they don't have really these kind of skills. I mean, they are just good to just doing, let's say, copy. Then, of course, then you go to the workshop, then you do the same. Then there are some that you can see they do almost the same. There is no, they don't give you any kind of feelings. There is no soul. I don't see soul.
There's no development.
They are beautiful. They are great with technique. They are okay, but for me, this is not for my way of seeing art. This is not art for what I think. Actually, we will have the New Year's Eve, the New Year year. The next artist that will join this conversation will be Sarah Gallagher. I'm telling you guys, she decided to join this conversation. I'm very happy to have a woman right now. The next Sunday, and then later on, we will have a master from Spain. It's a really good one. So we will talk about it. And I think his art is really, really beautiful. And but this is art. I mean, talking about art, this is what I wish I can start to do when I was 14 years old, to have more time to spread my soul. I don't know to spread it, to say, or to just share my thoughts, or to communicate with the world. But I'm slowly now I can paint, but sure soon I'm gonna start again.
It's quite extraordinary, and it's one of the reasons I was really happy to see you start this. Is I think in the insiders, and this is kind of growing out of that, and hopefully will grow bigger for you, is in the art world, I think it is so rare to actually just have a simple, honest conversation about art. It's always full of crazy language, and like it's just so up itself. It's twisted in knots and kind of justifications that are just ridiculous. And
exactly, this is what I don't want.
no, it's so refreshing to just to be able to talk about the
Salon.
simplicity
It's a kind of salon,
of it.
no?
Yeah, because simplicity, you know, as anyone who writes or does anything, getting simple answers is the most difficult thing you can possibly do. So often, like when we're at Art Basel or whatever, listening to panels and stuff, it's like, could you please just stop with all the shit and just like, what's really going on here? And it never happens. The art world's just full of words.
Yeah, because it gets, I don't know, maybe probably because we are losing this kind of uniqueness or genuinity, how to say in English, I don't know, to spell the,
Yeah,
I mean, genuinely talking.
genuineness,
because it's a lot of just marketing, influencer, whatever. There is always something between that divide people. This is what I want to do. I mean, and that's why I'm so grateful that you jumped in and to help me with this concept, because of what I would love really, it's a kind of support artists in all form, because there are so many talented ones in the group. Absolutely. There are so many good talented people that why to wait for someone that he wants only one, that he has 3,000 of followers? No way. This is not meaning that he's not a good artist. Maybe simply because the other one maybe bought some followers. No, this is a good artist, and it needs or she needs a little bit of you know, space, a little bit of support. So I'm not an artist, I'm a painter. I just do what I like to do when I have free time, when I'm just to get relaxed, to keep on myself. I'm not an artist, but of course I grew up in the art because my father was an art dealer. I know a little bit of art, and I would love to give support to my friends. I really would love, really. So let's see who's gonna be all the others insider that will jump.
I'm sure you'll be inundated.
Exactly.
And I'm really looking forward to kind of seeing those stories as well.
Thank you, David. Thank you so much. I think Instagram is gonna cut a little our conversation because it's an hour we are talking, and what to say more. I was so pleased to have you here. Really, so happy, and thank you for your time, and that you take time to stay with us. That it's so late for you. I know that I gave you a favor because you are not really in a Christmas kind of person. But
no, I'm not a Christmas person.
Me too. So really looking forward to the next conversation. Maybe we will talk later on, maybe a few months. Let's see where this kind of concept is gonna take me, or take all of us together. I really hope that it will work.
Thank you for organizing.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, everybody, for joining this conversation with David Wilson. Thank you so much, really. So, see you soon.
Night, guys.
Thank you, David. Thank you, guys. See you.